Brr. The weather may be frightful, but hockey is so delightful. Few things are as sexy as hockey is right now. Heated Rivalry has gone triple platinum and made the whole world kinda horny. But it's a wholesome brand of horny that I quite frankly didn't know was possible. The Winter Games are quickly approaching, with hockey being a flagship event kicking off the Winter Games. The stadium may be suspect, but the rosters are here and the sweaters kind of fire. So that's something. But before the world's best head to the promised land of pasta and pizza, we still have a few more weeks of hockey here at home. And there is one really great story from the PWHL this week that I want to highlight. The Ottawa Charge are 1-0, undefeated, when head coach Carla McLeod is wearing a shirt with Reba on it. And I think that is important news to report. It's important to me, a single mom who works too hard, who loves her kids and never stops. With gentle hands and the heart of a fighter. Welcome to the Weekly. The biggest story this week is that college basketball is sick. The upsets have taken hold. Not only does college basketball have talent spread around every conference like we've never seen before, but finally women's hoops have the investment that they have always deserved. And we're seeing the benefits of that right now in real time. A lot has happened in the last 11 days, way too much to follow for the majority of you who are less insane than me. So I'm going to break it all down for you, and I made you this little cheat sheet to keep here on the screen as we go, so neither one of us gets lost, all right? The majority of teams featured here fall into our first category, serious backslide watch. Basically, if these teams were in your friend group, they would be the ones actively hooking up with their toxic ex. Letting someone who, by most metrics determined by a committee of their peers, does not measure up to their level, get the better of them. And as of right now, they are still lying to themselves about it. Let's see, where to begin with this group? I think the friend I'm most worried about here is Iowa State. I keep waiting for them to right the ship. Falling to Baylor wasn't a huge misstep. At the time, it was a reality check and fuel to make them better. I actually thought it might be a good thing at the time. Baylor is a good team who has some trouble with consistency, but under Nikki Collins, they could win any game that was close in the fourth quarter, I think. I thought that was a character building loss that would help come tournament time. But then they did it again. 3 days later, they dropped a second game to unranked Cincinnati in a game that felt like they never really got into it. You look at that and say, all right, they had their heads down a little bit. Losing doesn't feel good, right? But now they had a respectable loss and a clickbait loss. Now they have it out of their system, right? Nope. They lose again to West Virginia, who, don't get me wrong, have shown flashes of real brilliance this season, but this time the Cyclones lose by the largest margin yet, 13 points. It feels like things are compounding for Iowa State. They are very close to thinking things would be different this time around if they got back together with that ex, right? Maryland is faring a bit better. They've only answered that "you up" text twice. They were one of the New Year's Day upsets, I'm sure you remember, falling to unranked Illinois, who I think makes a case for being a formidable matchup. They're ranked this week. The Fighting Illini are building a program that could be a real competitor in the Big Ten. But anyway, back to Maryland. They dropped another one to number 19 Ohio State just this Sunday. Ohio State is, again, a really good team. They love to play fast, but working out of their sets can be a struggle sometimes, I think. Maryland's best win is over Kentucky early in the season. And I just don't know if I've seen enough from them to be ranked better than in the 20s, to be honest. They have both USC and UCLA this week, and that should be a really good gauge of where this Maryland team is. Oklahoma. Oklahoma has been upset in their last two games, and I really thought they were a top team, but in prep for this, I realized that they also lack a signature win. They blew out a then ranked number 23 Oklahoma State, but that is the only ranked win. I will say that right now, Oklahoma is in the trenches of their schedule. They just lost to number 18 Ole Miss, who looked great this season, and then to number 6 Kentucky, and now they get absolutely no relief. They're about to face the new number 6 LSU and then the new number 2 South Carolina all this week. That is a tougher stretch than 4 consecutive games during the tournament, honestly. But pressure is also opportunity. So Oklahoma has the opportunity to climb this week just as much as they can fall. We're going to see what they're made of. The last team who is having a hard time being their best is USC. The Trojans were gaining momentum heading into the new year with a win over number 20 Nebraska, but once the clock struck midnight, they lost their footing. They've dropped their last 3 straight. First to number 3 UCLA, which is fair, but then they lost to 2 of the most competitive, unranked teams in the conference, Oregon and Minnesota. With their remaining Big Ten schedule, they'll have plenty of opportunities to get some signature wins against ranked opponents, but given where they've stumbled so far, I'm not sure they can get more than 2 or 3 wins out of the 7 currently ranked opponents that they still have left on the schedule. I know. You're saying, what do you expect from a USC without Juju? That's a big factor here. Well, you're right. But I do have a point, so bear with me for this, okay? USC and Notre Dame are 2 really interesting case studies as programs this season. Comparing the 2 as a whole, they're on the same but opposite journeys. USC has a few great pieces, but lost their star. And in this case, the star in question is the sun, right? USC's entire program orbits around Juju Watkins. Their ceiling can only be so high without her, and I think they are hovering right around that line. On the flip side, Notre Dame lost everyone but their star because their star didn't know how to act, and now they've had to basically completely recast. With the small number of players in the women's basketball player pool who don't mind spending all their time with someone with homophobic tendencies, to be honest. So, same, but different. Notre Dame has already been in and out and up and down and all around the rankings this season. They started 2026 by dropping 2 straight games to unranked opponents. And we've seen this before. First to Georgia Tech in a close one, and then they got totally handled by Duke. The best Duke has looked so far this season, though. Duke could be coming, just a warning. Those losses dropped them out of the rankings from number 18. But in a must win for both teams against number 22 UNC, Notre Dame just wanted it more, and they got it. Their biggest goal the rest of the season is going to be to try and find a way to win one of their 2 remaining matchups against Louisville. One win over Louisville would shift what this season could be for Notre Dame. Getting that win shifts their ceiling on the season to a Sweet 16 appearance, I think. LSU also got their lick back after dropping some games. I'm almost a little afraid to say this because I know somewhere, somehow, Kim Mulkey is going to hear this. Though I would be kind of honored to verbally spar with her, I think. And by that I mean for her to tear into me and for me to take it. As Kim Mulkey will remind you, she doesn't have summer sessions and she views the non-conference schedule as her preseason. And she's certainly faced some preseason-like opponents prior to the new year. Facing their first ranked opponents this season, the Tigers lost 2 straight games. First to then number 11 Kentucky, and then again to then number 12 Vanderbilt. And they were sitting at the 5 seed then. Before the dust even settled on that second loss, though, LSU all but called their shot and said they were going to get right. And did they ever? On Sunday, they showed up and showed out, beating number 2 Texas. The team that played on Sunday was the LSU everyone had been talking about that I didn't see. That was the team that stayed ranked number 5 for weeks, putting up 100 points on JV teams. At the end of the day, LSU's 2 losses are very respectable, and their win is one of the most impressive of the whole season from any team. Because not only did they beat an undefeated team that looked unbeatable, they beat the only team to beat the other unbeatable teams that have lost. Basically, they beat Texas, who already beat 2 of the best teams in the country, South Carolina and UCLA, the only team to do it. So, kind of in a way, if you think about it, you could conclude that LSU is also better than South Carolina and UCLA. I think there's a math property about that. But out of this whole list, the team who comes out on top for me is Kentucky. The Wildcats suffered only one upset in this whole stretch at the hands of Alabama, who turned that result into their first ranking of the season. Aside from that loss, Kentucky beat the number 5 team twice over the last 11 days. First, that upset over LSU we just talked about, and then that upset over the new number 5 last week in Oklahoma on Sunday. Unfortunately, the net of all of that means that Kentucky falls one spot in the rankings to number 7 this week from last week. So, okay. The committee has been sweating for 12 straight days, and there's more high stakes hoops coming this week. And just because I'm looking out for you and I want the best for you, you should pencil these games into your calendar this week, okay? Number 4, Texas at number 2, South Carolina Thursday night. That's the game of the week, hands down. Texas is coming off a loss that they will want to avenge, but South Carolina has already lost to Texas once this season. And you know how Dawn Staley is going to feel about that. That's going to be an unmissable game, okay? Also on Thursday night, in case you want to mix things up, we have number 25, Illinois, at number 8, Michigan. Michigan has looked out of sorts a little bit. They need a get-right win here, and Illinois is best at home, but anything could happen. The first of those 2 Louisville and Notre Dame games that I was mentioning, Notre Dame would really like to win one of those 2, as I said, so they could make this a good game. They're sitting at 9 and 23 in their rankings, respectively, this week, also on Thursday. But wait, there's more. Sunday is also packed with action. Number 6, LSU is going to number 13, Oklahoma, which is a massive opportunity for OU. Number 20, Tennessee will play at newly minted number 21, Alabama. And that's one of those we back Pat games this week, which means that there's a lot on the line for Tennessee emotionally. And I do expect them to get the win there. And we also have number 15, Michigan State at number 11, Iowa, which should just be a really good game. Okay, now that I have filled your schedule, let's talk about the WNBA and whether or not they will have a schedule at all in 2026. There's a lot happening and a lot we don't know, really. So here's the stuff that you do need to know right now, all right? The collective bargaining agreement's second extension expired on Friday, January 9th, and there is no new extension in place. It wasn't agreed upon, which will be important later. That means that both sides enter what they're calling a status quo period, which basically means keep on keeping on. In this phase, the league is expected to uphold the working conditions of the previous CBA. Notice I said the league, because the players do still have the right to withhold labor. They don't have to uphold anything, really. They have the right to strike, Industrial Revolution style. The union authorized the leadership committee, NECA, Fee, and Stewie, to declare a strike if they feel it is necessary. And while the players maintain that that would be a last resort, they're keeping that in their back pocket. The union has also started to build out some fail-safes should things escalate, which puts a little more pressure on the league as well. They announced that they have secured WNBPA player hubs, which would provide training facilities and resources when team facilities are off limits, which would only happen in a strike scenario. Krusty Krab is unfair. Kathy E is in there, standing at the concession, plotting her oppression. SpongeBob reference. See how it goes. Both sides remain far apart on a revenue share deal, primarily. There are other issues, but this is the big one really holding things up. The league has offered a 50% share of net revenue in an effort to cover operating costs first, while players feel that as the people who provide the labor that is the product of the entire league, they shouldn't be paid last. Thus, they believe the revenue sharing should come from gross revenue, since all of that revenue is a result of the on-floor product. And it's hard to argue with that logic, unless you are a greedy capitalist, I guess. The latest news is that as a result of them not agreeing to an extension, both sides have agreed to a moratorium, essentially a pause, on all league business activity. That halts any preparations or activity that teams may have been up to as it pertains to free agency. This is important. As a reminder, all but 2 veterans are free agents right now, a move that the union has been preparing players for far in advance. And I think this move not to agree to an extension with the league was very intentional by the union as well, in a genius play to ensure that teams couldn't trick any players into signing undervalued contracts, but also to make sure that they maintain the upper hand. The players have all the leverage in this scenario, and they always have. They've played this perfectly. This is all just an elaborate exercise in how long it takes the league to admit that, I think. To round out this week's episode, we are going to complete the Triple Crown right now, okay? College basketball news, check. WNBA update, check. Now we gotta hit Unrivaled, okay? This was going to be a full Unrivaled temp check after the first full week of action. But when the wellness report came back, it only said one thing. Chelsea Gray is burning up. In her first 3 games, she has 35 points and 8 assists, 23 points, and 37 points. She has hit 2 game winners, led the charge in 2 come-from-behind wins, hit the most insane shots, dissed the craziest assists, and caused the most opponent crash outs that a single person possibly could. If Unrivaled, a team founded by 2 of the very best basketball players in the world, ever went the traditional logo route like this, they would have to put Chelsea Gray on that thing as the silhouette. At this point, if you didn't know any better, it would seem like the player that created Unrivaled was Chelsea Gray, and she did it just to show off and to hurt your feelings. So, to all the fans of clubs that aren't Rose BC this season, I'm sorry to you and your team. You will be cooked. It's the rules. I do have a few non-Chelsea Gray things from this week, too. I know it's a sensitive subject. Let's see. Aaliyah Edwards is also proving that the 1v1 performance was not a fluke, which we knew. We all knew. She's had a double-double in every single game this season. On Monday night, she put up 38 points and 13 rebounds. 38 points was the single game scoring record set by Fee in season 1 and tied by Kelsey Plum and, of course, Chelsea Gray since. Oop, sorry. One more Chelsea Gray related thing. Kind of inevitable at this point. This is the last one, I swear. Speaking of that record, it was actually just broken on Sunday by De'Erica Hamby with a 40-burger. Say whatever you want, but De'Erica Hamby was built for 3v3. Another player that people generally can't stop talking about is Paige Bueckers. And P has been busy since the start of the season, but it seems in this new year something is a little different about her. Now that Paige has exceeded all the expectations that have been placed upon her as a young prodigy, It has been very refreshing to watch her get moments in Miami where she is a grown ass woman. No one gets to tell her who to be anymore. She is telling us who she is. And just this week alone, she has been a lot of things. She's been backwards hat P, she's been arm sleeve Paige, photographer Beckers, and very nearly the first triple double in Unrivaled history, buckets. Anyway, the girls are having fun, and I am having fun watching them have fun. I think maybe the most important thing that Unrivaled does as a whole is this. Watching the players on the floor and behind the scenes, it really feels like Unrivaled brings the joy for the game back to the players. It is work, yes, but it seems like Unrivaled and the WNBA are the difference between loving your job, what you do, the people you do it with, and who you do it for, and loving what you do because it's your dream job, but the things that come along with it make it feel a whole lot like work, right? So here's my question for you this week. We always end with one. I want to hear from you. What is your dream job? What is your Unrivaled? It doesn't have to be sports related. Tell me more about you guys. What a first date question. Leave all your answers below. What is your dream job? I can tell you right now that all of this is mine. So thank you for being here. Thank you for building this thing together with me. This is the weekly, and I'll see you next week.